Let's go on an adventure. Join me. Howdy everybody, come on in, come on, crowd in here, get yourself out of the rain. Welcome to God's Eatery. How many are in your party? Great. Have you ever been here before? No? Fantastic. As I take you to your table, let me explain a little bit about the establishment. Over here we have your buffet. As you can see, there is every dish known to man here, and some dishes not known to man. And what you do is you come over here and you take this platter. We don't use any regular plates here at God's Eatery. And you just go through this line and you take whatever you want and you put it on your plate, and you just pile it high. As high as you want. And then you take it back to your table and you eat it. And when you're finished, you know what? You come back and you do it again, because this buffet is all you can eat. But I also know some of you here, you want to be waited on. I get it. Over here, we have our regular restaurant. Well, you know, not anything is regular here at God's Eatery, because you'll see we don't have any menus. What you do is when a wait person comes up to your table, you just tell them whatever your heart desires, whatever it is, and they will write it down and they will run it back to the kitchen and give it to one of our master chefs who will just whip it right up for you and make it right to your tasting, right to your specifications, and send it right back to your table, lickety-split. So you have two options. You have the buffet or you have the restaurant. Now this is your table, and I'll be back in a few minutes to talk with you a little bit. God's Eatery. It sounds great, doesn't it? Well, I'm here to tell you that it looks even better than it sounds. And I'll explain that in a minute. But let me ask you a question first. How many of you have ever asked God for anything and then you didn't get it? I know I sure have. Or even worse, you ask God for something, and not only did you not get it, you got the exact opposite of what you wanted. Yeah. I used to believe that God wasn't listening to me, that God didn't care about me, that I wasn't even worthy of God's attention. Well, I have found out that that is dead wrong, and I want to share that with you today. My name is Bob Walkich, and I'm weird. Not funny ha-ha weird like Robin Williams when he's doing improv, but Twilight Zone weird like Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense. Now, you remember that famous line he had where he says, "I see dead people." Well, I see colors. I realize that doesn't sound like it's very weird at all, but what I mean is I see colors everywhere. I see them everywhere, flowing and moving and glistening and moving like smoke, and I see them around you, and I see them within you, and I see them flowing within you, and it's not like auras. I'm not talking about auras. And I've been able to see this since I was a small kid, as far back as I could remember. And I didn't know that this was weird. I thought everybody could see it. I thought it was normal. Until one day, I happened to mention it to a nun. Can you imagine what she said to me? She said, "Robert, you are of the devil, and if you do not confess this mortal sin, you are going straight to hell." Well, I was terrified. And so after school, I ran home as fast as I could. But the nun must have called ahead, because my mom was waiting for me at the door. And when I came in, she goes, "Bob, why can't you just act normal?" Well, this was pretty heavy for a 7-year-old. And so I said, "Never again." And so I started ignoring the colors. And eventually, they went away. And I did not think about them again for 40 years. Until a Sufi master from Jerusalem reawakened them in me. And then I started seeing them again, but I still didn't know what they were, what they meant, why I could see them and nobody else could. So a couple years after that, I started studying with a Sufi couple for a full year. And they helped me explore what it was. And they started giving me the first inkling of what it was that I was seeing. And I was really excited about this. And so I started sharing it with people. And you know what happened? I got rejected again. I was weird again. And so again I said, never again. But this time the colors didn't go away. And sure, I could ignore them, but they were still there. About 2.5 years ago, my son passed away at the ripe old age of 22. And I swore that life was too damn short and that I was going to be who I was and do what I do. And so you know what I did? Nothing. I did nothing. Until finally about a year ago, I could feel this pain in my heart that was just saying, you are not being true to yourself. You are not being who you are, and this really hurt. And so for the last year, I have been studying and I have been watching and I have been observing these colors and I have been experimenting and testing and doing all kinds of things with them. And I finally figured out what it is that I'm seeing. I am seeing the law of attraction in operation, literally. You see, I've been a serious student of the law of attraction since the late 80s, early 90s. Not since it's just become trendy in the last few years. And so I've read all of the literature and I've seen all the teachers and I've studied all of their information and I accepted all of the principles and the precepts about the law of attraction until I started seeing it in visible form, actually watching to see what was happening. And I noticed that there are 4 main misconceptions that everybody believes about the law of attraction that just aren't true. And I'd like to share them with you today. Is that all right? Good. The first misconception, I hate to tell you this, you are not the creator. I am not the creator. We're not even co-creators. That's a bummer, isn't it? I used to love that part. But it's not true. God is the creator. But the good news is God has created everything. He's created everything there ever was and everything there ever will be that we're not even aware of yet. It's already been created. And just like God's Eatery at the buffet, it's all there for us. God is already offering it to us. All we have to do is grab our platter, go through, pick what we want, put it on our platter, and then we have it. But then again, I know some of you like to pray. I like to pray myself. And so we ask God for something. And what I see is that God sends it right to us. Let me tell you, this is what I see. I see behind the scenes. So what I see is above and behind you. I see everything you see, but I see above and behind you too, and all around you. And what I see is with all of these colors floating, it is like God is the maestro. And he's conducting an orchestra. And he is creating these beautiful symphony. And he is sending it right to you. And then he's creating another symphony and he's sending it to you. And another one for you. And this is what I see is so stunningly beautiful that it just takes my breath away. But at the same time, it breaks my heart. So that's the first misconception. We are not the creator. The second misconception kind of goes along with how, let me just give you a simplified version of the law of attraction, what we kind of understand it simplified form. So we desire something. And then we visualize it. And then we act as if we have it. And then we get it. And then we tithe. We give it away. Or a percentage of it away. Right? That's the basic simplified version of the law of attraction. That's a misconception because really it works kind of almost backwards. Those roles are a little different. What happens is you ask God for something and he sends it to you. And he plants it right here in your heart. Now, what people don't understand is that the law of attraction is really a circulation. It's a flow. And it has to flow in a certain way. So God gives it to you. And it's right here, right in your heart. And it then comes out, and anybody who knows anything about energy medicine knows that your right side is your giving side. Okay, so it comes from your heart and it goes out and it travels down your right arm and it goes out your right hand and it goes out into the world. So what you're doing is you're giving it first. It's almost like reverse tithing. This is, you have it and now you're giving it away first. Then it circulates out in the world, and when it comes back to you, it comes back on your left side, which is the receiving side, the accepting side. But when it comes back to you, it comes back multiplied. And it comes up and it travels back up your left arm, back into your heart, but it doesn't stay there because this is a flow. This is a natural flowing. And then it goes right back out your right side and back in your left side. And it just keeps going like that. And remember, every time it comes back to you, your left hand, it comes back multiplied. Now on to misconception number 3. You've all heard the warning, I'm sure, where that says, you don't want anything, because what you'll get is the wanting of it. Right? We've all heard that. Well, from what I can see, that's pure hogwash. You see, God is all powerful. God is all knowing. God is all everything. And do you think that God could misinterpret what you want and by mistake send you the wanting instead of what you want? That God is like a lawyer and he's reading the fine print and he's only going to do the letter of the law? No, that's not what happens. You ask for something, you pray for something, and God sends it to you and he plants it right in your heart. So does that mean you get what you ask for? Not necessarily, because God doesn't send you exactly what you ask for. God actually sends you better than what you ask for. Let me use this as an example. How many of you have ever said, I want $1 million? Of course, I think everybody has. So when you say that, does God send $1 million and he deposits it in your heart's bank account? No. What God sends you is not $1 million, because $1 million is a limited amount. There is no limit to God. So what God sends you is total and complete and absolute wealth and abundance. That's what you get. God sends that to your heart. There is no limitation with God. God is all powerful, yet there is one restriction that God has, and that is that God cannot be less than what he is. He cannot be less than total and complete of everything. So if you've got a disease and you ask for the healing of that disease, does God send that to you when you ask for it? Actually, God sends you complete and total health. If you want a loving relationship, does God send you the person you're asking for? God sends you complete and total love. You're getting more than you're asking for because God cannot send you lack. So then, why is it we don't get what we want? If God is sending it to us, why aren't we getting it? It's because of us. It's because of our limiting beliefs. Which leads me to misconception number 4. Limiting beliefs are not bad. And so they're not to be gotten rid of, or released, or cleared, or expelled, or deleted, or crushed, or exploded. No. Let me explain it this way. How many of you have ever been on an expressway and traffic is running smoothly? Everybody is driving 70 miles an hour. All right, 75. Okay, 80. Everybody's traveling the same direction, the same speed. And all of a sudden, there's a slowpoke in the right lane up here, and he's only going 50. What happens? Everybody starts slamming on their brakes, and now they got to kind of try and merge into the other lane, which was running smooth. And all of a sudden, it just creates a disruption in the flow. And what happens if you get 2 slowpokes right next to each other? Yeah, it almost makes everything come to a complete stop, because now you got 2 lanes trying to merge into a third and go around, and it just creates havoc. It just disrupts the whole flow of things. Well, that's what your limiting beliefs are. Your limiting beliefs are like those slow pokes. You see, I told you about the loving, God's loving energy that is flowing through you and going through. This is the law of attraction working through you. And it's life. And every once in a while we have a limiting belief. And all that limiting belief is, it's that same exact energy, only it's traveling at a slower rate. It's vibrating slower, a lesser frequency. And so it gets a little bit more solid, which means it disrupts the flow that's going through. And if you let that limiting belief get so big and so slow, it can clog up the works and make everything grind to a halt. So you don't want to get rid of a limiting belief, because really you can't. It's part of that energy. It's part of the real God's loving energy. You can't get rid of it. But what you can do is speed it up. When you work on your limiting beliefs, you can transform them back into the original energy. And I've watched this. I've seen the color of the block. And when you start loving it and sending it loving energy or peaceful energy or merciful energy, that it starts raising the vibration, and that block starts vibrating faster, and the color starts changing, and it actually changes back into the original energy, the original color of that energy that keeps it flowing. And so it keeps going like that. So what you want to do is not get rid of your blocks, or not get rid of your limiting beliefs. You want to accept them and then love them, and that will transform them. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you transform your limiting beliefs? I really don't have time in this short space of this talk to give you anything real. But what I'd like to do is direct you to my website, where you can download a free ebook with different ways to transform your limiting beliefs. They're easy and they're practical, and all you have to do is go there and download it for free. Well, howdy again, folks. How was that meal? How was it? Did you get your fill? Wasn't it as good as I said it was? Of course it was. Now, I'm here to tell you, you have two payment options. No, not cash or credit card. We're not so crass as to ask for money here. No. You have two payment options. The first one is that you live your life of your dreams. You ask for what you want and you get it, and you own it, and you give it away first. And when it comes back to you, it comes back multiplied, and you just let that flow go, and you live the life of your dreams. Or the second payment plan, which is you don't follow how the law of attraction works, and you don't follow the flow, and what happens is you live a life of pain and suffering. And I hope you choose option one when you make your payments. And of course, because we don't do anything regular here at God's Eatery, we always do everything a little bit different. We are the only establishment in the world where we give you the tip. So here it is. You all know, well, I have found that about 87% of the people find it is easier to love somebody else than it is to love themselves. Am I right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, you need to love yourself to be able to work on your limiting beliefs, to transform them. And so I've got a little tip for you. All of you here know about Ho'oponopono. I know you do. You're hearing about it this weekend. So there's those 4 phrases you say over and over. Well, I've got a 5th phrase that you can just add to this. And I've seen this work, and I've watched it work in people, and this works like gangbusters. But I want you to try it first with me. It's 3 little words. It's, you love me. You love me. Now just take a deep breath for a second and say that to yourself. You love me. Do you feel how that feels? It's a completely different energy than I love you. So if you just add that 5th phrase to your Ho'oponopono phrases, you'll be able to see how this works. You'll start transforming those limiting beliefs even a little bit faster. I want to thank you all for coming here today. I hope that when you go on your way home, you're very safe and you get home where you're going. And I appreciate you being here, and I want you to come back and visit us again here at God's Eatery. Thank you.